And we are back on ESPN 104.5, The Team. It's Big Board Sports on this Tuesday morning. We follow Mike and take you right up to Hahn and Humpty. And one of our big stories locally was the MLB debut of Jeff Hoffman. And to talk more about that and overall impressions of Hoffman so far, Ryan Spilborghs is a former Rocky and now analyst and color commentator for Root Sports Rockies broadcast, and he joins us here on Big Board Sports in Albany. Ryan, Rodger Wyland, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate a few minutes. So what was your overall, let's start with your overall impression of Jeff Hoffman's debut.
You know what? The first 3 innings, he was great. And the thing that impressed me the most was that he wasn't afraid. I think he walked out to that mound like he belonged. And I think just the visual of him, how he carried himself, you'll see guys when they walk off the mound, they'll slink their shoulders down and keep their head down. Well, Hoffman carries himself different. And I noticed that in spring training, very first time I ever saw him throw a bullpen. He was throwing next to John Gray, and I just kind of looked and I go, wow. I mean, there's something different about guys when they carry themselves in a different manner, and that's what Hoffman does. And then, of course, you're facing Chicago Cubs. I don't think the Cubs really hit him that hard. There's some balls that went through the shift that weren't hit very hard at all. But I think the stuff is there. The makeup definitely is there, and it was great. I mean, you're going to take your lumps at the major league level, and the best part is take them early so you can learn. Because at this point, he's not winning a Rookie of the Year. He's not winning Cy Young. So that gives him an opportunity to just learn on the fly. Yeah,
because if you look at just if you didn't see the game and you're in Albany and everyone's paying attention to Jeff Hoffman, he was a stud here locally, and we know what he's been able to do in the minors. You look at the line and you see 6 earned runs. Oh boy, he got lit up, but probably you can't go by that, right? You can't just look at the stats and the line. Probably not as bad as some might think.
Yeah, you're right. He wasn't hit hard at all, and that was one of those things. The only pitch that got crushed was a pitch to Chris Bryant, and Chris Bryant hit all of it. But I talked to some of the Cubs guys after the game, and I asked, I say, hey, what do you think? And they go, stuff's going to be good. He'll play. And that's important. I think he's one of the darlings of what's called TrackMan or the Stats Cast as far as spin rates. He has the highest spin rate curveball in the Rockies organization, has the highest spin rate fastball in the Rockies organization. So what that tells you is for a fastball with a high spin rate, it will be that exploding fastball. So anytime you have high spin, it's fighting gravity, so it'll stay on a flatter plane. So if he can learn to harness that pitch above a belt, he'll be dominant with his fastball. And with the curveball, when you have a high spin rate, same thing. You're getting a lot of bite. And that plays pretty well at Coors Field with the altitude.
So the ceiling do you think the ceiling is high for Jeff?
Yeah, I do think the ceiling's high for Jeff, but it's always hard for guys because I think you come in to baseball a top prospect, and not all the top prospects, pan out in the major league level. There's a lot of things that have to go right. You have to trust your confidence. You have to trust your stuff. You have to make adjustments on the fly. I feel like I've seen more guys that have been non-prospects stick in the major leagues than guys that have been highly touted. And I think for a guy like Hoffman, when he's been traded for a franchise name in Tulowitzki, there's a lot of pressure attached to that. And I think Joe Madden says it best. You have to enjoy it more than the pressure. So you have to find a way to play the game and enjoy it more than what's out there. And I think if he can do that and enjoy the game and just use his tools, I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. It's just going to be up to him putting it together, and that's going to be the interesting part. That's the most fun part I have as being a former player. Sitting in the booth is watching people grow, people succeed, and watch people fail. And I think that's part of it. And it's fun to see this with some kid that has so much potential to see how it's going to play out.
Ryan, Brady Farkas here. Every organization and their fan base has that one guy who's waiting in the wings, and they say, it might not be going our way now, but when that guy comes up, things are going to be different. Is Jeff Hoffman that guy for Rockies fans? How much is he being counted on by fans who look for the organization to turn around?
I think he's kind of the guy that the Rockies want to see what they received for Tulowitzki. Tula was... fans were devastated the day after Tula was traded, and so they want to see what type of arm. And I think they get it. I think they get that in order for the Rockies to be successful, you have to find alternate means of finding starting pitching, and you need to find frontline starting pitching. And the Rockies drafted John Gray 4 years ago, and he's pretty much a frontline starter. They drafted this kid Kyle Freeland right before Jeff Hoffman years ago. And again, that's another first rounder, highly touted. He's in the farm system. He's next to come up. Now you add Hoffman behind it. I don't think it's Hoffman or bust. I don't think it's like this is the guy that if he doesn't pan out, our whole organization's going down the tube. I think he's just part of an entire group and team philosophy that's changed, and it's changed pretty significantly in the last 2 years. So I'd hate to put the pressure on this one guy that, hey, you're the guy that if you don't, you're going to change the organization. No, the organization's changed, and he's part of it. And I think that's a much better spot for Hoffman to be in, a lot less pressure, even though he is tagged with the, hey, you got traded for Tulowitzki.
Talking with Ryan Spilborghs here, former Rocky and now analyst and color commentator for Root Sports Rockies broadcast. Jeff Hoffman, our star local player, getting a big-time shot here with the Colorado Rockies organization. Ryan, will he stay up there the rest of the year? Do you think he'll finish the season there and obviously make at least another start here?
Oh, yeah. He'll. We have the 40-man will open up in September, so the only concern would be pitch count and innings limits for Hoffman since he has come off Tommy John. I think the number that they would like to get him to is 150 innings. And I think he's at 124 right now, so it would be about maybe 4 more starts, I think, if the math suits us. And so you kind of look at it like that. He's going to get an opportunity. I think the Rockies, once September rolls out, you'll see a 6-man rotation depending on some other pitchers in the rotation and how they pan out. There's been several guys that have had bigger workloads than they're accustomed to. A guy like Tyler Chatwood, who's come off Tommy John. He's on the disabled list right now with a back issue. So I think they're going to try to limit innings for several of their arms. But there's also, as I mentioned, Kyle Freeland. That's Hoffman's probably best friend since joining the Rockies organization. He's due up next. And then there's another kid, German Marquez, who is part of a Tampa Bay trade that's been dominating. So I think Hoffman will get at least 4 starts. I think my favorite part of this entire Hoffman thing was the fact that when we found out that Hoffman was starting in the major leagues, it didn't come from the Rockies PR. It came from Shaker Baseball from the high school. They were the source that broke the news. And obviously that's pretty cool to hear about that because you see that Hoffman's still attached to his hometown community.
Well, he's a big story here, and we got a lot of guys around here, Ryan, that are in the minors or in the majors. A lot of guys playing pro ball, and he's one of them. But to get that chance and now to stick the rest of the season will be a great story for us, and we really appreciate the insight from you here this morning on Big Board Sports.
You got it, you guys. Thank you.